Hello and welcome to Quality of Mind. And this short video is all about before psychology. So why do we describe quality of mind as exploring before psychology? What does that mean? Well, first of all, let's have a little look about how conventionally society and organizations in particular go about trying to unlock new levels of resourcefulness, performance and well-being in their people and teams. Now, what they might do, and you may have all experienced this already, go on a course where you get taught or coached around some new prescriptions or ideas on what to think or how to behave or attitude. So tips, techniques, strategies in managing your performance and well-being. Or it might be you undergo a 360 or an assessment or a psychometric that starts to tell you more about your personality, your style, your programming, your values, your beliefs. And then with that awareness, you can sort of work around those things or try and understand them a little bit better. Now, quality of mind isn't looking in either of those directions. It's operating more upstream to that, more before psychology on that, and instead it starts to look at the nature of experience, reality, human psychology, not the content of what we think, feel, perceive and do, but the nature of it. Now, what do we mean by the nature of psychology, and what do we mean by before psychology? Well, let's just have a little metaphor about that before we get into more detail. So imagine you were learning a new language and you did it via a phrase book or a vocab book. That might be quite helpful in certain contexts because you could order food in a restaurant, for example, but you wouldn't be able to have a proper conversation with people. You wouldn't be able to compose new sentences and things like that. You'd be very limited. Now, sometimes you might think, well, if I need to get less limited, I'll just learn more. I'll learn more phrases, I'll learn more words. That's a little bit like what we do with our psychology. Rather than understand the true nature of it and the principles that sit behind it, we just try and learn more content. Another metaphor could be that imagine you came across a smartphone device, but you didn't know it was a smartphone. You didn't know what smartphones were. You didn't know anything about Wi-Fi or the internet or Bluetooth or processing power. You wouldn't really get much out of that device. You might find it does a couple of things, someone might show you a couple of apps, but you wouldn't know what was possible unless you understood the very nature of what it was to be a connected device, what processing power could do and create. So what we're pointing to here is by only focusing on what our psychology has already produced, we're missing the more upstream foundational understanding of the nature of the mind, the nature of reality. And once we understand that, we unlock vast amounts of performance, well-being and resourcefulness. So that's how it might work in the metaphor of a smartphone or in language. How does that work for the mind? Well, let's see if we can break this down a little bit further. So sometimes we will try and change how we think about a situation. We'll try and reframe something about the particular behavior or the presenting reality in the outside world. Or we might look at how we see that thing from our inside world, from our internal world, from our narratives, our belief system, etc., our conditioning. And we might try and change that so that the world looks different. Now, in quality of mind, we go more upstream than that. We start to look at the nature of not the external world or the internal world, but of how consciousness and thought come together to create what we are, to understand what the nature of the very self is that is creating this internal and external world. We're looking at the nature of something. We're looking at the mechanics of it. We're not looking at what that system produces. Now, this is something that may sound unconventional. It may sound even a little abstract. And until you've had the realizations about it, it can sound like that. But it is much better experienced than spoken about. And if you want to know more about this aspect, then I'd really suggest that you check out some of our podcasts which go deeper into the topic of what we mean when we say the true nature of reality and what it is to be the self. But for now, it's worth just noticing that by focusing on the nature of psychology, not the content, it allows people to have realizations which unlocks a whole host of benefits. And a lot of these benefits are useful in all sorts of contexts of our life and work. Things like clarity, resilience, creativity, connection, new perspectives. All the things we need to survive and thrive in today's world. The other advantage of looking at before psychology is you start to see that everything in our presenting worlds, our internal or external worlds, are actually coming back to the same understanding, and how actually we're innocently misunderstood about those things through our conditioning. It's mainly invisible. But when people have their realizations about that, upstream, it goes from the profound realizations of understanding the nature of what we truly are and of consciousness and the mind, to very practical, day-to-day insights about how to be, how to operate in life and work. And that's what brings all the benefits of quality of mind, like increased clarity, creativity, resilience, connection, new perspectives, all the things we need to survive and thrive in today's world. Now, if you want to know more about this in more detail, then I suggest you check out some of our podcasts on the nature of the mind, around real and never true, self and I. And that will give you more sense of what we mean when we say before psychology. Until then, have fun being curious.